Good afternoon then, members, and welcome to this hybrid meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee on the 27th of September 2022. Welcome to the members of the public viewing this meeting. Please could you ensure your microphone is switched off, as you are here to observe the meeting only. Before we start, please ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. Members who are present in the chamber, please can you use your microphones when speaking. If you wish to speak or ask to raise your hand, please can those at home raise their electronic hand on Teams, and those in the chamber raise your physical hand. Agenda item 1 today is the appointment of chairperson. Could I have a proposer, please, for the appointment of chair for the Governance and Audit Committee?
I propose Craig.
Could I ask you who you're proposing, Councillor Richards?
Yeah, I'm proposing Joanna.
Thank you very much, Councillor Richards. And could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Are members all in favour of the appointment of Joanna as chair of the Governance and Audit Committee? Thank you very much. Our second item on the agenda is the appointment of vice chairperson. Could I have a proposer, please, for the appointment of vice chair?
Yes, I'm proposing Andrew Bagley as the vice chair.
Thank you, Councillor Richards. And could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Rogers. Again, could I ask members to confirm whether you're all in favour of the appointment of Andrew Bagley as vice chair? Thank you very much. On that note, I will hand over our chair to take us through the rest of the meeting. So, John Jenkins.
Thank you very much. Craig Griffiths, and thank you very much for the confidence everyone has shown in me. I'm looking forward to being chair of the Governance and Audit Committee for the next number of years. So welcome everybody. I can see a number of councillors are with us, obviously a number of councillors who have joined us online, as it's a hybrid meeting. I can also see that 2 of my fellow lay members are with us today, Mr. Mark Owen and Mrs. Helen Griffiths. Thank you and welcome to you all. So the next matter is chairperson's announcements, and I can confirm that I have no announcements to make at this stage. I obviously would like to reiterate the instructions that were given at the start of the meeting about making sure mobile phones are off, and obviously that everybody raises their hands if they have any point they need to make, whether virtual or physical, and obviously that we respect each other's time and space when we're addressing everybody in the meeting. So the next item is declarations of interest. I don't know whether we've received any declarations of interest so far, or whether anyone needs to make any declarations of interest at this stage.
I can see no hands raised virtually or in the chamber, Chair.
Thank you very much. Obviously, if a matter arises during the course of the meeting that somebody needs to declare an interest, then obviously, again, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand and doing so. So the 5th item on the agenda is to be brought to the meeting by Karen Furlow, I understand, and it's Audit Wales Final Assurance and Risk Assessment Progress Update Letter. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chair. So earlier this year, Audit Wales undertook a piece of work in the Council to assess what progress we were making in terms of meeting some of the requirements under the Local Government and Elections Wales Act. And the findings from that piece of work are attached to Appendix 1. So just to give you some background information, the Local Government Elections Wales Act has brought about a significant change really in terms of our governance and performance requirements. We have made good progress over the last year, especially in light that we were still responding to the pandemic and we're moving into recovery. So progress includes all our services have developed their own service recovery plans, setting out their priorities for the coming year. So that's over 80 service recovery plans in place. We're making good progress in developing our first corporate self-assessment. That's a new requirement under the Act, and that will be coming forward to this committee at the end of November, because there is a role for you in the Act to review the Council's draft self-assessment. In addition, we're also making good progress on developing our participation strategy. So that's some background info, Chair, for the committee. I'm happy to take any questions. I don't know if Audit Wales colleagues want to add anything as well.
So are there any questions from members at this stage? Maybe if Audit Wales colleagues would like to raise a point.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, thank you, Chair. Sorry, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Non Jenkins from Audit Wales, for those I haven't yet met, and look forward to working with you over the next 5 years. Yes, just some context really around this, in that we've done this piece of kind of commentary work, I suppose, across all of the councils in Wales as part of our ongoing assurance and risk assessment, and it was done at a point in time. But obviously you've moved on since then, so glad to hear Karen's update in that sense, and we're working closely with the council and really keeping a watching brief really on how all the councils are moving forward with this over the next year. And I've just been to 2 governance and audit committees this morning, because everybody seemed to have rearranged their governance and audit committees for today, and they asked about participation strategy and how that's going, because I know everybody's working on those at the moment. So I'm going to take that back into Audit Wales and ask how can we pull together some good practice on that. So just to give you an update. Diolch, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from Audit Wales want to make any comments? Or no? Thank you. Obviously, this document item, agenda item 5 is for us to note, members to note the progress set out in the attached update. Is everybody happy to note the progress? Yes, I see heads nodding. So thank you very much indeed. The next agenda item also relates to a matter to do with Audit Wales. And this is the Audit Wales 2022 Audit Plan for Neath Talbot County Borough Council. And I don't know who's going to mention this.
Sorry, I'll introduce this. Diane Mulligan was intending to introduce this report, but unfortunately she's ill. I won't say very much about it. The purpose of the report is for Audit Wales colleagues to provide details of the work that they intend to undertake during 2023, and it also contains details of the fees which will be charged. If I could now ask one of my colleagues from Audit Wales to take members through the rest of the report.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. I'll kick it off and then I'll pass over to the performance bits to Non. So as Anne-Marie's just said, this is our 2022 audit plan, which was agreed with officers back in April. This is the first governance and audit committee that we've been able to bring it to. So it just sets out the work we plan to do to discharge our statutory responsibilities, and it informs you when the work will be undertaken, how much it will cost, and who will undertake the work. So our responsibilities in respect of financial statements are set out in paragraph 8. We're required to give an opinion on the truth and fairness of your financial statements and to assess whether the narrative report and annual governance statement are prepared in line with guidance and are consistent with the accounts and our knowledge of the council. When we audit the accounts, we adopt a concept of materiality when carrying out our work. So we look at misstatements that might result in the reader of the accounts being misled. We'll report the level of what we judge to be misstatements to be material to you in our financial statements ISA 260 report, and it's around about £5.5 million. Our audit approach is based upon our assessment of the risks of material misstatement. At the planning stage of the audit, we identified 3 risks, which are summarised in Exhibit 1 on page 32, which also sets out the work we plan to do to address those risks. And they were management override of controls, which is viewed as a significant risk in all bodies in accordance with auditing standards. It's also accounting for COVID-19 funding, as the councils continue to receive quite significant funds via various funding streams during 21-22. And also asset valuations then, it's due to uncertainties with COVID, Brexit and increases in building costs. We identified a risk that the value of assets valued may be materially different from their current value at 31st of March 2022. If I just hand over to Non then to take you through the performance audit parts of the plan, which starts on page 33.
Thanks, Gillian. Yes, and paragraph 15 onwards sets out our performance audit work. So if you're thinking, what is performance audit? It's around, if you remember, the 5 ways of working and the 3 E's, which are economy, efficiency and effectiveness. Our work is basically based on those key areas, and we have duties around those as part of our work. So during the pandemic, we worked flexibly and adopted a flexible approach across our performance audit with councils across Wales and public services wider than that, and made sure that we were also consulting with councils, as we do every year, but to inform our work going forward. And we also hold annual workshops, I suppose, with the council, just to kind of touch base in terms of our initial thoughts in terms of the risks that we see and what the council is currently working on in terms of its risks. And from that, we then pull together a programme of work, be it local risk work, be it regional or national pieces of work. So what you have before you here from 15 onwards is setting out those three kind of levels of work, but in particular the local performance work, as you can see in Exhibit 2. So the performance audit work programme for Neath Talbot for the year that we've already begun. Our ongoing risk assessment, which you would expect us to undertake, and those particular elements are financial position, capital programme, governance, use of performance information, and the setting of wellbeing objectives. We've already kicked off the unscheduled care work, and the project brief has come out, and the team across health and local government are already working on this, as you might expect, given the pressures at the moment. We also, in consultation, agreed to undertake a thematic review across all councils in Wales this year too. This year, it has been confirmed that it will be digital. So last year, our thematic review was around workforce management and asset management. This year, it's going to be about digital, and it's really it's about learning from how councils have learnt and been innovative throughout COVID and the pandemic to leap forward, I suppose, on these areas. And obviously all councils have had to rejig what they were planning on doing before the pandemic, and potentially what we found is that the pandemic might have been a catalyst to improve a number of things. So we're looking at digital because that's also a solution for the future for public services. And we have also agreed with the council that the local project will be looking at the effectiveness of your scrutiny, but we'll let you get your feet under first, and we'll come back in the new year and have a chat with you in terms of how you feel it's going, and then anything that we can bring to the fore in terms of learning from elsewhere, happy to do so as part of that work. There are wider pieces of work that we will be undertaking, as I said, in terms of performance on the national and regional, but those are the specific ones for you as a council, as a local council. I'll hand back to Gillian now.
Thank you, Noel. And just our estimated audit fee for 2022 is shown in Exhibit 3 on page 37. And then in Exhibit 4 on page 37, it also sets out then the main members of the audit team and the proposed timetable for when you can expect us to complete and report on audit work. If anyone's got any questions, either myself or Noel would be happy to take them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So do members have any questions of Gillian Gillett? And non-Jenkins? Thank you. No questions. Thank you very much indeed. Right, so this was a report for information, and therefore we note the contents of the document, and we look forward obviously to Audit Wales coming back to us in due course when, as you said, we've got our feet under the table. Thank you very much indeed. So the next item is agenda item 7, and again, Audit Wales work programme and timetable document. And that starts at page 29 onwards. I don't know who's going to be covering this.
Yes, I'm happy to kick off, if that's okay with you, Gillian. The context to this is that for over a year now, we have sent a copy of our work programme and timetable updates to you as the chair of audit, as well as sharing it internally with the council before that. So that's the purpose of this, is to keep you up to date quarterly on where we are on our work programme, but not just us as Audit Wales, but also CIW and Estin. So it's a summary of everything that your external regulators and inspectorates undertake. And what we are trying to do is also make sure that when we have finalised something and it's on our website and published on our website, we will put the links in for you too, so that it's kind of an anchor point for audit committees across Wales then to kind of go back to thinking, oh, where will I find that? Then hopefully the link will be in here for you going forward. So trying to make it as easy as possible as an anchor point. So as you can see, we're nearly completed on our 21-22 work and progressing with our 22-23. And then you'll see throughout it all, you see all our national studies that are planned or in progress or have been published, the Estin summary, and also the Care Inspectorate Wales summary. Any questions? Happy to take.
Members have any questions or any points they want to raise about this documentation? In which case, again, this, I think I'm right in saying, is a document, a report for information, and therefore is for noting. So thank you very much, and we look forward to having more updates in future months. Thank you very much indeed. So the next agenda item, I believe, is one that the Chief Finance Officer is going to be bringing to the meeting. So Hugh Jones, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. So this report, which starts on page 47 of your pack and runs through to page 208, sets out for members' information an update in relation to the preparation and audit of the Council's 2021-22 Statement of Accounts. The audit is substantially complete. However, Audit Wales are unable to sign off at present due to an ongoing national issue in relation to accounting for infrastructure assets. On the basis that issue is resolved shortly, we're hoping to bring a final version of the accounts back to this committee in November, along with an accompanying audit report to sign off the accounts. Ordinarily, my colleague Diane Mulligan will be presenting this report, but unfortunately she's not here today and unable to attend due to illness. So I'm happy to take any questions from members. However, I may need to come back to you at a later date with any technical responses required. The recommendation is on page 49 of the pack, and it's for members of the Governance and Audit Committee to note the contents of the report and the 2 appendices. So thank you, Chair, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Obviously a weighty report containing a lot of information, which will inform our thinking in months to come. And it is a pity, but obviously, as Hugh Jones said, it's due to technical issues. It is a pity that we're not in a position to sign off and complete this process today. So this is a matter that will have to come back to the committee towards the end of November. I believe the date is going to be sent out shortly. So does anyone have any questions on the document? I see no hands, in which case, obviously, again, this is a report for information and to note the contents. So on that basis, unless anyone has any comment, we shall say that the report has been received and is noted. Thank you very much indeed. So the next item on the agenda is agenda item 9, and that's a Governance and Audit Committee report. Again, should have been presented by Diane Mulligan, but I believe it's going to be brought to the meeting by Anne-Marie O'Donnell. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Agenda item number 9, which is the annual internal audit report, which starts on page 209 and ends on 220. The matter is for members' information. The report, the main headline of the report is that following the work undertaken by internal audit and work undertaken by our external regulators, including Audit Wales, Eston and Care Council in Wales, is that the opinion that we can give is that we can provide reasonable assurance that there are no significant weaknesses in the overall control environment operating across the council. However, it should be noted that in relation to risk management, the current risk management policy was not fully adhered to during the previous financial year. Risks were managed in the normal way. It was around the reporting of the risks and the updating. However, work is ongoing at the moment to revise the policy, and that will be taken to the appropriate committees in due course. I also would like to stress that in giving the annual opinion, at no time can we give absolute assurance. There is no 100% testing that's done. We cannot test every system that operates within the authority, and that it is reasonable assurance that we can give to the committee. Appendix 1 provides details of the achievement against the internal audit plan. As is stated in the body of the report, we lost a considerable number of days last year due to sickness within the team. We brought a revised plan back to the previous committee in November 20, which took out some of the lower risk areas, and we concentrated on the higher risk areas. So that's Appendix 1, gives details of the achievement against the plan, and Appendix number 2 provides details of our ongoing quality assurance and improvement plan. And as I said, the report is for information. However, Chair, I am happy to take questions from any member should there be anything that requires clarification.
Yes. When you said the risk management policy was not fully adhered to, in what respect is that then? Is it just the timing of
There were
risks?
there were delays in the reporting of the risks to the appropriate committees. You can help me out here. Yeah, there were just delays in reporting the updated position to Cabinet.
In what sense does the policy need revision then? Weren't they already being reported to those areas?
It's not an area I have any responsibility for, but Hugh does, Chair, if you could come in.
Yes, please. Thank you, Hugh.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks for the questions. Yeah, the policy was due to be reviewed on a 3-year basis and due to be reviewed in 2021. That review has been delayed and is being undertaken, excuse me, as we speak. In terms of the comments in relation to the opinion there, it was the fact that we weren't able to adhere to the frequency of reporting to Cabinet that we needed to during the year. We had a change in administration. We had a delay in terms of meetings, so it was a reporting to Cabinet issue. But hopefully this year now we've strengthened the personnel dealing with the risk management policy as well. So that should be a significant improvement going forward, Mark.
Thanks. Just one final question on that. Last time I think we all met up, I think it was at the training session, we talked about the ERM solution. There's a digital solution being implemented. Is that any nearer go live? Yes.
We were actually moving the strategic risk register onto a Excel based solution, and that is ready to go. We're discussing it in our corporate directors group 2 weeks today, and it'll come back then either to the next committee or the one after that. So just to be clear, elements of it are digital and some of it is going to be on Excel, is it? Yes. So the operational risks which are held at accountable manager level are being held on the CRM system, but the strategic risks are being maintained on an Excel spreadsheet for the time being.
Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, ECRM, just for make sure that everybody present knows what.
Customer relationship management system. So it's basically a database system that you use to hold information. Sorry, I should have
No,
been more specific. Thank you, Chair.
That's absolutely fine. Councillor Aubrey.
Oh, thank you. It was in Appendix 1, the item about Crynar School, 2 DBSs not finished for current governors, and also Bryn Coch School, there was issues with an unofficial fund there, and then the purchasing of procurement cards on Coed Frank, R2.
So, Councillor Aubrey, that's not the report that we're discussing at the moment. We're discussing the annual internal audit report, agenda item number 9. I think the reports you're referring to come later. Perhaps it's agenda item 11.
So, Councillor Aubrey, if we can come back to the points that you want to make when we get to that particular item. Obviously, I suspect you may want to declare an interest, or you have obviously a specific interest in those named or numbered reports. But we're currently looking at agenda item 9. So does anybody have any further questions based on the report and the 2 appendices?
Sorry, just one final question. On, I think it's page 212, it says that 42 formal audit reports were issued and only 1 resulted in limited assurance. So does that mean 41 were positive? Sorry, I haven't got the ratings in front of me, but...
They would have either had a substantial assurance or a reasonable assurance rating.
Okay. Just in my experience, that's very high number of positive reports, which is great. You know, if that's the way it is. I guess just from a sort of quality assurance perspective, how does the audit team get assured, like within the IAA standards, every 5 years? In the private sector anyway, you have to get a quality assurance review done. When was the last time it was done on the...
Last time it was done for the team was in 2018. We're due, and I may have mentioned it in one of the other reports, we are due to be externally assessed early in the new calendar year. We do it by way of peer review with the other 22 Welsh authorities. We have a peer review group, and we will review, I think it's Caerphilly that we will review, and colleagues in Conway will carry out the external review of us. A formal report will be done and brought back to this committee when the report and review is complete.
So it's a form of moderation internally then, is it? Or you kind of look at other councils' reports and see whether you derive at the same opinion. Is that roughly the way it works? No.
We follow the public sector internal audit standard, their external assessment template, where each of the standards, you complete the self-assessment to say whether you comply, you partially comply, or you don't comply. It gets reviewed by whoever is carrying out your external review, and they will ask for documentary evidence to support the assertions that you're making on your self-assessment.
I certainly remember, because I was a member of the what was then called the Audit Committee in 2018. I certainly remember the report coming back following the previous assessment, and obviously the committee members had an opportunity to go through the information in some detail, and obviously it's reassuring in a way that the same process is going to be followed. But I do know it was a robust process last time, and I know from conversations that we've had in previous committee meetings, that we have had an opportunity to discuss any of the reports and the sort of the assurances that are coming back to actually say, you know, can we have more information about any that we're unsure about and things. So just to reassure you, the members of the committee have always had an opportunity to delve deeper into matters when anything arises. Thank you.
So when the review is done, the person undertaking the review held conversations with the chair and vice chair of the committee, with the Section 151 officer, and if memory serves me correctly, with our external auditors as well. So there was a wide range of people who fed into the review, as well as it being myself and the then head of audit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So does anybody else have any other points to raise on agenda item 9? Obviously, again, as was mentioned earlier, this is a report that is for noting information, and therefore on that basis we will move on, having confirmed that we've noted the contents of the document. So agenda item 10, again, a report that would have been brought to the meeting by Diane Mulligan, and this is the internal audit strategy and risk-based plan for 2022-2023. And obviously this sets out the work schedule, amongst other things, that's ahead of the internal audit team.
Yes, agenda item number 10, which starts on page 221 and concludes on 244, is a matter for decision, and members this afternoon are asked to approve the risk-based strategy and plan, which is Appendix 1. Sorry, I've lost my spot. Yep, the internal audit plan, which is Appendix 2, and the internal audit charter, which is Appendix 3. The strategy gives details of what internal audit is, who we are, the staffing structure, the legal requirement for internal audit, how the plan is developed, details of our resources, and how the plan will be delivered. I'm happy to take any questions at this point on anything contained within the draft internal audit strategy before we move on to the detailed plan.
So do any members have any questions of Anne-Marie O'Donnell? See no hands. So if you'd like to move on to the plan itself.
Okay. Appendix 2 gives details of the plan. In a normal year, members would be asked to approve this plan earlier in the financial year. But obviously, due to the recent local government elections and the changes within the authority, this is our first meeting. The plan, therefore, whilst it's in draft and requires your approval, we have had to make a start on some of the items contained within it. You will note the final column has a risk rating. The risk rating is arrived by a formula taking into a number of variables, one being the size of the activity being audited based on the annual income or expenditure or the size of the budget, the number of employees involved, the potential impact to the authority of something going wrong within that service, the frequency of transactions or interactions with service users, And then the second variable is the controls within that service operating. So the impact of management and staff, third-party sensitivity, if there is a failure within that service, does it impact elsewhere within the authority or externally? The standards of internal control and the likelihood of something going wrong. And the final variable then is the detection of any issues. And again, it's weighted and it's the likely constraints of the effectiveness of the audit, the duration of the audit work, and the last time an audit was undertaken, and the effectiveness of any other assurance providers or previous audits. Those are then put into a spreadsheet, and a figure comes out. If it's 50 plus, then it's high risk. If it's 21 to 49, it's medium risk, and up to 20, it's low risk. So you can see a range of the risk ratings throughout the audit plan. I do believe that the plan gives adequate coverage across all of the authorities' business areas. It was put together with reference to the authorities' risk register, discussions with each of the corporate senior management teams, from our own experience within audit of the authority, and anything that came through on any other of our regulatory reports. And so, Chair, I'm happy to take questions on any items contained within the plan.
Thank you. As members will see, it's a very detailed plan that covers a wide range of aspects of the work of the local authority. It also covers other commitments which the local authority have assumed, and it retains 21 contingency days to assist should matters arise that are unexpected. Obviously, my understanding and my knowledge of the work of the internal audit means that the auditors intend to keep to this, but obviously matters can arise wholly unexpectedly. COVID, obviously, and what the fallout of COVID, reminding us all of how things changed in 2020 onwards. So do members have any questions of Anne-Marie O'Donnell? These are all areas of work which the committee will become very, very much acquainted with over the course of the next 12 months and onwards into the remainder of the life of the current term of councillors. So no questions, in which case I note that the recommendation on page 223 was that there were 3 recommendations, each of them separate, and I will take them together because they oh, apologies, yes, you want to introduce another matter, carry on.
Chair, it's the Internal Audit Charter for 22-23, which is Appendix 3 and starts on page 233. The purpose of the charter is basically to say who we are, what we do, and what our clients can expect from us. It is a requirement of the public sector internal audit standards that we have a charter, that it is reviewed, and that it is agreed by members. I won't take you through it. It is quite self-explanatory, but again, Chair, happy to take any questions that members may have.
Do members have any questions on Appendix 3, which starts on page 233 onwards? I see no hands, in which case, unless there are any other points, I will go back to the recommendations which can be found on page 223. And there are 3 recommendations. They relate to the 3 appendices, and I propose that we accept the recommendations, that we approve each of the 3 sections, and could somebody please second the proposal? Thank you, Councillor Carpenter. We note that you've seconded the proposal. Members, do you indicate to the contrary that, or are you all content with the proposal and the fact it's been seconded?
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, so I can confirm that's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Members, this report, agenda number item 11, is a report you will become familiar with as the year goes on. It is a quarterly report that we bring advising members of where we are, what we've done since the last meeting, and giving details of the audits that we've undertaken and the assurance rating for them. The points to note within this report, I feel, are number 4, the staffing issues. Again, since our last committee, we've been impacted again by a very high level of sickness. Unfortunately, we have 2 staff on long-term sickness. And, you know, the sickness is being managed in line with the authority's policies and procedures. Another staffing issue, as was reported to previous audit committees, we have had a long-standing issue with regards to assistant auditor posts. They were traditionally very difficult to recruit to, and when we did recruit to them, the people that we recruited to the post invariably left after a year or so and moved onwards to accounts. It's not something that is a Neath for Talbot problem. It is a problem across audit teams. Because of that issue and the fact that we just seem to be having this churn, we undertook a review of the staffing structure, and it was agreed to delete the assistant auditor post and replace it with an auditor post. And so that has all been done, and the vacancy is on our vacancy bulletin at the moment with the closing date of the 6th of October. So I'm hoping at our next committee meeting, I'll be able to tell you that we have a full complement. So fingers crossed. On a positive note, on the staffing front, one member of staff has recently completed parts 1 and 2 of her professional qualification, and another member of staff has completed part 1 and is due to sit part 2 of the examination in early October. So that's a bit of a good news story.
Could we make sure that the thanks of the Governance and Audit Committee goes to those members of staff? Because I know they are quite complex qualifications, and their efforts should be noted. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Chair. I'll pass that on.
Hi, sorry, could I ask one quick question? So you know obviously the impact on resource because of the illness. So in terms of delivering the audit plan, how does the audit team approach the kind of elements left? Because obviously if you've done other people, you're not going to get them done. So when it comes to the end of the year, do you make a decision on what the riskier areas to roll them forward, or do you just shelve some of the plan?
We concentrated on completing the high-risk areas, and the high-risk areas that we didn't undertake, we rolled forward into this year. And we then had discussions with the senior management teams to see of the areas that we hadn't covered, was there still a need for them to be covered, or because there is finite resources, were we better directing our resources elsewhere? So it's a bit of a combination of both. Section 5 of the report details the work undertaken since the last committee, and Appendix 1 gives details of the report and the assurance ratings applied at the end of the audit. The assurance rating again is arrived at by way of a calculation, and we take into account the number of recommendations made within the report, the likelihood that a failure to action the recommendations within 6 months could lead to a significant system failure, the impact of a significant system failure, and that then again goes into a spreadsheet, formula applied, and we then apply that to Category 1, substantial assurance, which is where testing found good controls to be operating and generally required only minor recommendations. Category 2, reasonable assurance, testing found some controls which needed enhancing, which would be achieved by implementing the agreed recommendations. Category 3, limited assurance, testing revealed a number of areas where enhancement was required, and in those cases the head of service for that area is required to provide a written response to yourselves advising of what actions have been taken to address the issues raised. And Category 4 is where no assurance can be given, and this is where testing reveals areas of significant concern, and the head of service and or the accountable manager will attend the next meeting of this committee to provide members with an update on actions taken and also to answer any questions that members may have of them. So Appendix 1 gives details of the reports issued and the assurance rating, and perhaps if members have any questions on that, I'll take those before we move on.
I think it's safe to say that over the last 10 years, what was then called the Audit Committee, now the Governance and Audit Committee, had actively been involved in discussing how the assurance ratings were being reached and suggestions were made. And this is where obviously in 2022, the current Governance and Audit Committee received these reports. The assurance ratings are quite robust. And I'm sure that some of you may have some questions about it. And I particularly suspect that Councillor Aubrey, you may want to raise something at this point. But members, do any of you? And I can see Councillor Spooner, your hand is raised. So Councillor Spooner, if we go to you first.
Thank you, Chair. It was just for completion and clarity, really, that I am Chair of Governors at Rose Primary School, which is mentioned in this part of the report. So we need to declare an interest on that.
Thank you, Councillor Spooner. I know that your interest will be noted at this point.
Thank you.
Do any other members have any points that they wish to raise?
Oh, I would like to speak, please.
Thank you, Councillor Aubrey.
On Cronach Primary, there was 2 DBSs for current governors not completed. Is that the portability check?
Could you remind us which page you're looking at, please, Councillor Aubrey?
It's Appendix 1 and it's R40.
Thank you.
Sorry, it took me a bit of time to find my place there. No, they were new. My understanding is that they were new governors, and the DBS process had been started but hadn't been completed at the time of the audit. Therefore, the DBS certificate wasn't in place at that time.
And then on pages 22 to 23, R1, Brinkhoff School, the unofficial fund, because I know before we've had problems with monitoring these unofficial funds in the past.
Yep. To be perfectly honest with you, I can't remember what the issue was with the unofficial fund without actually going into the audit and looking, but I will get details of what the issue was and email an explanation out to members as to what the issue was.
Thank you.
You're happy with that?
Then on Coed Frank, R2, purchasing procurement cards, they said good controls were there other than the purchasing of procurement cards.
Again, off the top of my head, I don't know what the issue was, but again, I can find out what that issue was and in the email, advise members of what the issue was.
Okay, thank
However,
you.
as we gave substantial assurance, I can't imagine that it was anything major, but I will check that and get back to members.
Thank you.
Apologies for not having the information to hand.
Thank you. And obviously, Councillor Aubrey, you have been on the committee for some time, and you're obviously raising these points, I'm sure, because you're aware that they're matters that the committee have considered previously, and particularly the DBS question and issues to do with school funds and procurement cards and things. So thank you, Anne-Marie. We look forward to receiving the email in due course. And if anybody needs to follow that up, perhaps if they wouldn't mind coming back to me, either directly or through Democratic Services. Thank you.
There's no questions on that, then I'll move on to Appendix 2 of the report, which gives members an update of the audits that have been undertaken in relation to this year's plan and where we are with those. And again, happy to take any questions that members may have on that.
Do members have any questions based on Appendix 2, which runs from page 265, I think it is, to 269? In which case, if you want to go to the last appendix, which refers to 2 letters.
And finally, Appendix 3 is the response from the Chief Digital Officer and the Head of Planning and Public Protection, both of whom are responsible for areas which received limited assurance. For members' information, for all audits that we undertake, we do a follow-up post-audit review anywhere between 1 month and 6 months after the audit to check for compliance with the agreed recommendations. But Appendix 3 purely is both of those heads of service providing you with what they have done since receiving our audit report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any points they want to raise specifically relating to Appendix 3 and the 2 letters? The first one is from the Chief Digital Officer and the second from Head of Planning and Public Protection. The letters are both self-explanatory. Any points? I see no hands. In which case, and if nobody has any other questions, the report, agenda item 11, is for information purposes, and therefore we noted the contents. Thank you. The next item is agenda item 12, urgent items. I have not been informed of any urgent items, and therefore on that basis we move on to agenda item 13, which is the Governance and Audit Committee Forward Work Programme for 2022-2023. And the document is attached for members of the committee to note. Does anybody wish to raise any point based on that?
Thank you, Chair. So the Forward Work Programme can be found on pages 272 to 274. The Forward Work Programme will be added to as time goes on. Just wanted to make a point that we're going to be arranging a special meeting, so an additional meeting of the committee on the 25th of November. Your attendance to this meeting would be greatly appreciated, as there'll be some important items to consider, which includes the approval of accounts, as well as some other items that will be added. As well, we've got a duty to check the timings of meetings of the committee with the members. Members will know that committees usually start at around 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. So I'll just be sending an email out to you all just to confirm that you're happy with the timings of the meetings. We've got a couple in for 10 a.m. and we have some in for 2 p.m. So you're quite split between those two times. But just wanted to let you know that I'll be sending that email out. So if you could all reply to that with your preference, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. The next item on the agenda is the question of access to meetings. Are members in agreement to move into private session? I propose that we do so, but I would require a seconder, please. Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you very much, councillors. So are all members content that we move into? I see hands going up. So yes, thank you.
Yep, so if you don't indicate to the contrary, we'll move into private session. I'll just confirm that the recording is being stopped.